This is the CJ Silas Show. She's been talking sports for over half her life. You'll hear big-name guests and all the hot topics. Her roller derby sisters call her Dodge Her Blue. CJ's proud of her California roots and time in New York. Born and raised in L.A., college at USC and Syracuse University. She's not afraid to share her opinions with you. And, like it or not, she wants to be the change. Ladies and gentlemen, all ears and no mask required. Here she is, CJ Silas.
Hey, welcome in live and direct. It is the CJ Silas Show on ESPN Radio 1280 AM and FM 101.7, The Ticket. Listen, you need to put your seatbelt on right now, even if you're not in the car. This show is going to zoom by you. This never happens. Never. Not only do we have Kimberly A. Martin, one of the best reporters who covers the NFL for ESPN, and she's traveling. She was in one city on Sunday. She had to get somewhere else on Monday. She had to do her take yesterday. She's traveling. Today's like her busy day with like all the TV shows and everything. To get her was nuts. We almost lost her because she's so busy. Steve Mason from ESPN 710 LA, who is a Rams honk for life, like crazy. Pretty sure he's a season ticket holder. He and John Ireland do 1 to 4 p.m. weekdays on ESPN 710. And while I was on vacation for 2 weeks, I got to listen to them every day. He's at all the games at SoFi. He's going to come on, talk Rams, 49ers. I'm pretty sure he was at that first game recently when it was more 49ers fans than it was Rams fans. So we're going to have Steve Mason on. It's a busy, busy show, and if you like NFL, keep it here. And if you don't, keep it here. Just keep it here. My gosh, why wouldn't you? You're making an appointment to listen. You might as well stick around. Hancock baseball and Hancock softball begin now. Tomorrow is my first collegiate baseball game of the year. It's a 3-game series against College of the Sequoias. Cal Poly starts with their alumni game next week. The Olympics start. Did anyone realize that there's a Winter Olympics going on starting next week? Yeah. Even in the middle of the pandemic, with the numbers up higher than any of us can even calculate recently, there's going to be an Olympics, a Winter Olympics. And I love the Olympics. Just like I said during the 2020 Olympics in 2021 in Tokyo, I wanted the Olympics because of my fandom, but only if it was safe and everyone would stay healthy. They did a pretty good job. I guess I'm saying the same for the Winter Olympics. We'll talk a little bit more about them next week. Erin Jackson, who's a friend of the program, we had her on our YouTube channel a couple of weeks ago. She's there, and it's a really good story, so we'll probably talk a little bit about that next week. TikTok coming to the CJ. What? Did I just say that? That's embarrassing. But I'm also going to admit that I watch TikTok, even though I don't have one. I'm pretty sure, and I don't know how technologically I watch TikTok, but I think TikTok somehow is related to Instagram or Facebook, or when people do their TikToks, they also put it on Instagram or Facebook. But I'm obsessed with TikTok dances, like crazy. I'm learning some of them. And I have the songs on repeat in my head. So embarrassing. Did I just admit that on live radio in 21 countries, all over the internet, on a podcast that's crazy popular? I guess I did. I watch a little TikTok. I don't do it, but for one more week, I can only say that for one more week, because starting next week, the CJ Silas Show, I don't want to say it, the CJ Silas Show will be on TikTok. We're also going to up our game on YouTube, right? We're going to make more video for YouTube. You guys you're making me wear makeup to work. You're making me dress like a professional. I like to come to work in my pajamas with no makeup, sucking on a lollipop. And now I'm going to have to do the show with like a button-up shirt and a jacket, right? Am I going to have to look like a journalist? Well, no. It will never happen because I'm not a journalist anymore. I was, but I'm not. I'm a sports talk show host. Big friggin' difference. I guess this is the last week I can come to the show in my jog bra and pajama pants. Well, I guess I could do that, but that would not be good video for YouTube, and it definitely wouldn't be good for my TikTok dances. Am I going to be dancing when I do my TikToks? I am? Wait. How does sports radio and TikTok turn into dancing? I'm not going to dance. Gabe, I'm not going to dance. I'll do TikTok because y'all are forcing me to, but I'm not dancing. I mean, I like to dance, and I'm a good dancer. I think I have rhythm, but I'm not going to do TikTok. I'm not dancing. This is a sports talk show. There's only so much I'll do. There's only so much. Look forward to that. Kimberly A. Martin from ESPN in a few minutes. Steve Mason as well. Black history as we do every week on the CJ Silas Show. Brown and black people must be celebrated, acknowledged, remembered, and talked about. And that's what we do on the CJ Silas Show. We've been doing it for over a year and a half, ever since George Floyd was murdered. Zora Hurston, born January 7th, 1891, an American author, anthropologist, and filmmaker. She portrayed racial struggles in the early 1900s, American South, and published research on hoodoo. Do we mean voodoo? The most popular of her 4 novels is Their Eyes Were Watching God. I read that, and though it was published in 1937, I did not read it in 1937. She also wrote more than 50 short stories, plays, and essays. Hurston's works concerned both the African-American experience and her struggles as an African-American woman. Her novels went relatively unrecognized by the literary world for decades. Finally, in 1994, Zora Hurston was inducted into the National Women's Hall of Fame. Oscar Micheaux, born January 2nd, 1884, an author, film director, and independent producer, more than 44 films. Although the short-lived Lincoln Motion Picture Company was the first movie company owned and controlled by black filmmakers, Micheaux is regarded as the first major African-American feature filmmaker, a prominent producer of race films, and he's been described as the most successful African-American filmmaker of the first half of the 20th century. The Producers Guild of America created an annual award in his name. The Oscar Micheaux Society at Duke University continues to honor his work and educate about his legacy. Derek Thomas, born January 1st, 1967, nicknamed DT, was an American football linebacker and defensive end for the Kansas City Chiefs of the NFL. Thomas earned unanimous All-American honors during his collegiate football career at Alabama and was selected 4th overall in the 1989 NFL Draft by the Chiefs, where he played 11 seasons until he died in 2000. Considered one of the greatest pass rushers of all time, he received 9 Pro Bowls and 3 first-team All-Pro selections, along with holding the record for most sacks in a single game with 7. Thomas was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2009, and the Collegiate Football Hall of Fame in 2014. The Chiefs named their Player of the Year award in Derek Thomas's honor. He won it twice himself prior to the award being named after him. The Derek Thomas Academy, a charter school in Kansas City, Missouri, opened in September of 2001. It served nearly 1,000 children from kindergarten through 8th grade. Derek Thomas. Next week, we will surely honor Jackie Robinson because it's his birthday on Monday. Just saying. We will have a celebration of Jackie Robinson next week on the CJ Silas Show. Steve Mason from ESPN 710 will be coming up a little bit later on the show. You know, I don't usually start off my show with a guest, but she is this important, this talented, and she's a friend of the program, and she's also one of my Syracuse sisters, one of the best in the business, writer, reporter, TV star, podcast star, Kimberly A. Martin, joining the CJ Silas Show. Hello there. Thank you for squeezing me in during the NFL playoffs. I know it's hard.
Hello. I know it's been a minute, CJ, since we have talked, but as you said, I am a friend of the program, and I'm so glad to be back on with you.
First Take, Her Take. I want to get to that quick because that's one of your newest ventures. Tell me a little bit about it and how it came about to be your new gig.
So First Take, Her Take, actually, we launched it last year, Inauguration Day, January 21st of 2021. It's sort of a spinoff of the First Take show with Stephen A. and a cast of characters, but it really is myself, Charlie Arnold, Elle Duncan, who does SportsCenter. We give our takes on sports. our lives. We talk a lot about our lives and sort of our journeys in sports. But first and foremost, we talk about whether it be Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady, whatever the hottest sports news is going on that week, we are on it giving our opinion. So it's a great platform. We're hitting a different demo, and it's good. It's a lot of fun.
Where do you find it, and what time is it on?
It is a podcast, so you can get it anywhere that you guys listen to your favorite podcast, on Apple, Spotify. We are hopefully moving in the direction of getting a show. That's our hope, somewhere visually, whether it be ESPN Plus or YouTube or something like that. So, yeah, hopefully 2022 will be kind to us as well.
All right, let me know when you need a scrappy old veteran to be on the show with you.
I will, for sure.
She is Kimberly A. Martin. You can find her at Kimberly A. Martin or at Kimberly Martin. She's been with ESPN since March of 2020. So the best thing that happened in March of 2020 is you being a part of ESPN. We'll just pretend the rest of the things going on in March 2020 never happened, but you're now a part of the ESPN family. Not your first gig. You've been covering the NFL for over 10 years. You're on Sunday NFL Countdown, ESPN.com. You've been at Yahoo, Washington Post. You have been everywhere. Before I get to the current situation, you did cover the Buffalo Bills for the Buffalo News for a moment. When you saw what happened this weekend in the Buffalo KC game, what happened to your soul and your heart?
It's funny. So I was a columnist in Buffalo a few years ago. When I came to Buffalo, Tyrod Taylor was their starter. So that's how it was, a minute before the Josh Allen era began. But having been around that team over the years, covering them as a columnist and national writer for Yahoo before ESPN, I've witnessed the evolution of the Brandon Beane, the GM, and Sean McDermott era. Like, I've seen it grow. I've seen the team grow. I covered that Sunday night game in the regular season when they went to Arrowhead and beat the Chiefs. And after that game, I talked to Josh Allen about that big game. How are you so calm in this moment? He's like, listen, Kim, this is not about beating them in let's say it was week 5. It was early in the season. It's not about that. Buffalo is building something special. I think all these playoff games, even the wild card games that were total duds, if you have a franchise quarterback, that is more than half the battle. The only team left to me in the hunt for the Super Bowl right now that doesn't have the guy that can potentially win them the Super Bowl is Jimmy G. Like, he's the one guy that you're sort of like, can he put them on his back? So in Buffalo, they have the franchise. Josh Allen, the key for Buffalo is trying to keep the roster and the coaching staff together, because they're building something great, but the way they've had to structure contracts, guys they have to re-sign or extend, that remains to be seen if Buffalo can keep the band back together, especially with Brian Daboll, their OC, Leslie Frazier, their DC, interviewing currently for open positions.
You mentioned Jimmy G, so let's get right to the 49ers and the Rams game. You hear a lot of different things about him. He's a great guy. He's a team player. Guys want to play around him. They want to play for him. He pumps them up. And then you hear people, well, he can't seem to get it done when it's important. He throws this interception or that. You cover these guys. You see them on a regular basis. What's your take on Jimmy Garoppolo?
I was there for the 49ers loss in the Super Bowl where he missed Emmanuel Sanders' beat. So I was at that Super Bowl. I've covered the 49ers against the Packers in the NFC title game before. And I've been in the locker room when Richard Sherman is telling me, everybody counts out Jimmy G. Everybody counts out Jimmy G. Well, I would run through a wall for Jimmy. His teammates love him. But if we're being honest, we all know that there's good Jimmy and then bad Jimmy. And I know all quarterbacks have bad days and stuff like that, but there are more moments where you see Jimmy G cough up the football, throw an interception at a critical point, and I think that's not disparaging him. That's just, I think if Jimmy was on the radio with us right now, he would say, yeah, I haven't played up to what I think my capabilities are, or I know that I've made some mistakes that almost cost us games or have cost us games. There's something special about this 49ers team. It feels like the way things are breaking, it just feels different. They've beaten the Rams 6 straight times like that. And not to say that there's no pressure on Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers, there is. But when you look at the Rams were constructed as a super team to win the Super Bowl. And so each week that they play, they came into that game against the Bucs very loose, but each step of the way, until they raise the Lombardi, the whole season will be a failure. That's a different feel than you have in San Francisco. And things seem to be breaking San Francisco's way. So I'll be curious to see if they're able to knock off the Rams for a 7th straight time.
Rams at home again. This will be their second postseason game at home, and then the Super Bowl is at SoFi. How does that home field vibe affect how the Rams are going to play against the 49ers?
Well, we all made the joke on Twitter about how they're trying to keep 49ers fans from getting tickets. But,
I saw that.
You know, the 49ers fans, listen, they roll deep. I think LA is just not, it's not the same sort of football city as you have in Green Bay or you have in some of these Dallas, well, you know, in New England, like you have in some of these other places. 49ers fans, if possible, they will flock and support their team. The fact that Matt Stafford's wife was saying on her podcast that, you know, it was really crazy, it was ridiculous that so many felt like a home game for them. That environment, that's a problem for the Rams because a lot of guys on offense they couldn't hear. At this point of the season, being that you just played them to end the regular season, you've got to sort of expect 49ers fans to flock. Maybe it won't be as loud as last time. It won't be, you know, as lopsided as last time. But you have to sort of put all that aside. Like, you can't focus on the crowd noise or any of that. Because, and again, this is a Rams team that just went to Tampa. I just got back from Tampa myself yesterday. They flew across the country, went to Tampa, knocked off the defending champs. So there really are no excuses. Whether that stadium is filled with like red and gold, you know, or blue and white and gold. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter at this point.
She's Kimberly A. Martin. You can find her at Kimberly Martin. She went to Wesleyan, graduated from there. She got her master's at Syracuse. She's been covering the NFL for over 10 years, and she's a friend of the CJ Silas Show. 3 field goal wins, and 1 overtime win last weekend. Probably one of the best and most exciting postseason weekends we've had in the NFL. It just shows that special teams matters. What do you think about that?
We get so enamored with the high-powered offenses. And during the regular season, and we definitely should, all the passing yards that are put up. But when it comes to the playoffs, it is about defense, and it really is about all 3 phases. We tend to forget about special teams until a kicker misses an extra point or a field goal at the end of a game, and then we're like, kickers. At this point of the playoffs, these are good teams. This isn't, not to disparage the Pittsburgh Steelers, who I covered a lot in the AFC North, but this wasn't the Steelers rolling into Arrowhead and then getting waxed by the Chiefs. You know what I mean? All the teams right now have very good rosters, very good coaches. So all 3 phases have to be on point, and I think we're seeing that. The high-powered offenses, unless you're the Chiefs and the Bills and you're not playing defense, you know, special teams is key, and so is defense at this point.
I know you were in Tampa and you covered Rams Bucs, but I also know you have an opinion about Aaron Rodgers. How does his reputation shift after this past weekend and the loss?
So it is crazy to me that Aaron Rodgers is out of the playoffs. You understand any given Sunday. I get that. This season, the story arc of the season and how it began, and the Packers, him and Devontae Adams were on their last dance. Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, sort of ride to the end. You thought that this was a team that they were by far the most complete team all season. I thought they would be the favorites to win the Super Bowl. And it just comes down to another lost year. I don't want to say lost year for him not to come through. You know, I saw a stat. The Packers have played 13 home playoff games. 13! And won only 7. They lead the league in home playoff losses over the last 20 seasons. The person that tweeted from ESPN, one of our stats guys, said the Lambeau mystique is dead. And that's a crazy thing because Aaron spent a lot of time talking about how playing at home was an important thing. Getting the first-round bye, an important thing. And to get knocked out, I think this is the end of him in Green Bay. Denver is going to be the likely destination for him. So it'll be interesting to see how this offseason unfolds and what happens to the Packers going forward.
She's Kimberly A. Martin from ESPN. I know that your time is tight. The one question I have to ask you, just because we've talked about this in the past, we talked about it right after George Floyd was murdered. We're trying to continue the move forward in justice, fairness and freedom in this country once and for all. And this diversity issue in the NFL, in the coaching ranks and in the front offices is embarrassing. It's offensive. It's obnoxious. It's ridiculous. And I can't believe that in 2022, Kimberly, you and I are still talking about this. How is the NFL going to shift and be more fair, just, and true?
It's funny. I had talked to Raheem Morris, the defense coordinator for the Rams, on Friday before he interviewed for the Vikings head coaching job. And I talked to him about how he was going up against Todd Bowles, the defense coordinator for the Bucs, and, Byron Leftwich, OC for the Bucs, Harold Goodwin, their running backs, offensive assistant head coach, their special teams guy, another African-American. And we're talking about all the D'Amico Ryans for the 49ers, Leslie Frazier for the Bills, the defensive coordinator. We're talking about how this last weekend, featured so many black men in coordinating positions. Eric Bieniemy with the Chiefs. And Raheem had said it's proof that there are good coaches. If this is supposed to be the best of the best teams that are left, and so many of us are here, that proves that so many of us are good. But he wants the narrative to end he would love the narrative to end. But I think why it's important to talk about it is because the idea that the NFL is a meritocracy is a fallacy. It is not a meritocracy. It was solely just because you were good. Sean McVay getting a head coaching job at 30, he's a good coach. But that same opportunity does not exist for African-American coaches. The idea that, hey, we'll just take a flyer on this guy who's 30 years old because we believe in him. We grow up thinking we've got to be twice as good. We've got to be better because we can't have any holes in our game because that's going to be the thing that they point to. So I think the NFL is doing what it can, but at the end of the day, that the responsibility falls on owners to think outside the box, not just go with who their inner circle is telling them to interview. I do think we've seen Ryan Poles. He's going to be the new GM of the Chicago Bears. Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, he is an executive with the Browns. He's the leading candidate to be the Vikings GM. Expected to happen. I think we are going to see a shift with more black executives and coaches hired. But again, it's about leveling the playing field, especially when you're talking about jobs where you're directly relating to 70, 80% African-American players. I think we're trending in the right direction. People I talk to in the league are hopeful that things will change for the better and that we will get to a point, like Raheem Morris is saying, that we're not talking about race. It really is, hey, we cast a wide net. We want the best candidates out there, regardless of skin color, regardless of not just experience, but just diverse. We want diverse thinkers. Forget about diversity from a racial standpoint. Diverse thinkers that can challenge us in the building to create the best rosters, the best organizational environment, and hopefully, CJ, we are headed in that direction.
You're incredible, intelligent, fantastic, but most important, loyal, and you handle me texting you, Instagram messaging you, calling you, and you're like, oh my gosh, if I don't.
No, thank you. I appreciate you staying on me because it's been crazy. This is my second year at ESPN, but I started literally the same week as the COVID shutdown. So my first year at ESPN feels like a blur. I almost feel like a redshirt freshman from that standpoint of I'm just, there's a juggling get up and first take and Sunday countdown, all that stuff. It's been great, but I appreciate you staying on me because, like you said, Syracuse Sisters, and I want to be there for you and your radio program and your listeners.
Thank you, Kimberly. And we can't forget that we hear you often here in San Luis Obispo and around the Central Coast when you come on with Greeny, and he loves you, and you have such a good rapport with him. Thank you. Get some sleep. You are kicking ass, and I am so proud to know you, so honored to call you my Syracuse sister, and you be well, and make sure you get some sleep and stay hydrated.
Thanks, CJ. I appreciate it.
Love having Kimberly on the show. Coming up, Steve Mason from ESPN 710, who spends a lot of time at SoFi. We're going to get his thoughts on the Rams and 49ers. And I don't know if it's true that people in LA have been trying to prevent 49ers fans from getting tickets to that game on Sunday. I want to thank my partners, Jim Nazzo, Daniel Lapidus, and Larry Ackerman. Some great dentists. Come on. Dermatologist Dr. Brad Kurgis. I was there this week. He makes me look like 13, safely. The Slow Wellness Center, Diablo Bay Athletic Club and Spa, Michael Moore Sports Recovery, Joy, Shell Beach, California Fresh Markets in 5 cities where I shop on 5 Cities Drive in Pismo, Foothill Boulevard in San Luis Obispo, and El Rancho Market in San Ynez. They have some of the best stuff. I just got this tamponade that you can only get in the deli. Olive oil, some of the best olives, so much flavor. And if you can't find what you need at California Fresh, just ask someone, and they'll probably get it for you. Coming up, Steve Mason from ESPN 710 to talk NFC Championship game. You're listening to the CJ Silas Show on ESPN Radio 1280 AM and FM 101.7, The Ticket.
Now, back to the CJ Silas Show on ESPN Radio 1280, The Ticket.
Welcome back to the CJ Silas Show. This is crazy. I don't know if my show is going to be 10 years old in 2 months, and I have to tell you, I don't think one of my oldest and dearest friends in the business has never been on the show. You know what it is? It's because he's so damn popular. He is Steve Mason from Mason and Ireland on ESPN 710. He's been on CBS. He's worked with Tom Snyder, Jim. Oh, that's why he's never been on my show. I'm not big enough. I'm not Jim Lampley.
No, not at all. Not at all. One of my favorite people, and we go back years and years.
I
and
know.
You're one of my earliest friends in the business, and
So
I'm
crazy.
thrilled that you've been here 10 years and happy to be on.
Thank you for being on. I was thinking about us today because we used to play paddle tennis at your house in Playa del Rey, and I'm like, wait a minute. Is that the same as pickleball?
It's technically pickleball. I think it is pickleball.
I do too. But it's paddles instead of rackets. Maybe that's the only difference.
But pickleball is now all the thing. Everybody's playing
I
pickleball.
know.
It's like the big fad in the world.
Yeah, but I don't. Do you?
I have not yet. My brother is addicted to it. I have not played yet, but he continues to tell me that I need to do it.
That's what everybody says. And you know why it's different than paddleball? Paddleball was with a tennis ball, but with paddles. Pickleball's with like a wiffle ball.
Correct, with a
Yeah,
wiffle
okay.
ball. Yeah.
So weird. And they're taking over all the tennis courts. So those hoity-toity entitled tennis people are pissed all the time. Every time.
That's okay. I'm not a tennis person. I'm with the pickleball people.
Yeah, me too. I had a vacation I always take a vacation at the beginning of January to get my voice rested for all the baseball that I do starting tomorrow with junior college and collegiate baseball. And I could get 710 in San Diego. And I listened to you and John every day for 2 weeks. It was so fun because normally I get you for like a minute when I'm on my way to a Dodger game. And it was so fun. You guys have been doing this, 20, 25 years? How long?
25 years, yeah, 25 years, and 16 now at ESPN in Los Angeles. And, yeah, it's been 10 years is an amazing run in radio. 25 years is just incredibly rare. We basically are in a business where you're hired to be fired. It's a little bit like being a baseball manager. It's a tough racket. But you've survived, we've survived, and evolved with the business. We have a blast working together.
But you have broken up a couple times, right? Haven't you?
We did.
Because you went to New York for a while and you were working with CBS Radio, right?
I took a job doing mornings at WNEW
Okay.
in New York. Did
Right.
morning drive in New York City, 57 and 7th every morning at 3 a.m. I got there.
Awful.
We did split up. We
Yeah.
did split up for about 2 years, and then I
Okay.
came back to L.A., and we immediately reteamed.
That's so cool. I really enjoyed it, and I think about the people that have gone through and worked on your show that have moved on to other shows too. I mean, there's some guys that have produced your show that are now doing NFL Network, and they're big time guys. So you're actually kind of teaching people too along the way, and that must feel good to be a mentor.
Yeah, it does feel good. I mean, I think about people like Michelle Tafoya, who I had brought in as a guest host one night when I was working down in San Diego. I think of people like Matthew Berry, the talented
Yes.
Mr. Roto,
Yes.
who was really – he started as a caller to my show.
Oh, my gosh.
And eventually he's turned into an empire, right? A. Martinez, who is one of our board ops, he is now the host of Morning Edition on NPR, which is a crazy big job.
Yes.
Dave Singer, who you mentioned, is
Yep.
at NFL Network. He's like vice president of talent there. I mean, yeah, I'm really proud of everybody, and hopefully I've been helpful along the way.
For sure, for sure. You can find him on ESPN 710, 1 to 4 p.m. weekdays, Mason and Ireland. But he's got this new, well, it's not even that new anymore. He's got the super cool podcast, the Culture Pop Podcast. Vanessa Rubio's been on it, Leah McHugh, Ernie Hudson, Justine Bateman. What's the whole passion and story around the new podcast?
Well, I love pop culture. I always have. I mean, I grew up hanging out at a movie theater. I owned movie theaters. I think you knew that.
Yes.
I owned 36 movie theaters at one point in Southern California, so I got to know a lot of people in the business. And I'm really, really passionate about movies. So, we've had people like Bryan Cranston and O'Shea Jackson Jr. and Paul Reiser, and the list goes on. And I work with Sue Kolinsky, who was my partner at WNEW in New York. So my side hustle involves the same co-host I had in New York City years ago. And we have a blast. It's a lot of goofing around, but it's also a lot of the stars and the writers and the directors behind all kinds of movies and shows that we love.
He's awesome. He's covered Olympics. He and John have been named the best sports talk show more than once. You've seen him and heard him on Good Day LA. He started years ago at Extra Sports 690, and we shared an agent when we both first started in the business. And I don't know if you remember this, but you lost a bet, and you had to work with me behind the bar at Border Grill in Santa Monica. Do you remember that?
Border Grill? I do, on 4th Street, right?
Yes, it's gone now. But you remember coming and working behind the bar with me because you lost a bet?
I do. I remember it well. I remember hanging out with you at that place.
Yeah. We've had some fun, Stephen. Now, here we are later in life, and you, who've always been a Rams fan, you've got your team back in LA. You've got one of the most beautiful stadiums ever built, and you spend time at SoFi, and this weekend is probably going to be one of the best days of your life, especially if the Rams beat the Niners. Before we get to this week's game, how are the Rams fans preventing, if it's really true, 49ers from getting tickets to that game Sunday?
Well, here's the thing. I was at the last game of the year, which was Niners and Rams. And I would argue, some people disagree with me, I would argue it was a 50-50 crowd. Some people say, oh, no, it was all Niners fans. It was a sea of red. I actually think it was a 50-50 crowd. I think this is going to be a much better showing for Rams fans. Here's the deal. So I'm a season ticket holder. And I've got fancy seats, right? I got really fancy seats. I could sell each of my tickets for $5,000 a piece. There are people who are in the nosebleeds who are season ticket holders who, by selling those tickets, can pay for all of next year's season tickets. So there's that sort of business equation that's going on. But my sense is that more Rams fans, and we've talked about this a lot this week, more Rams fans are going to keep their tickets, are going to be at this game. Because, let's face it, this is a once-in-a-lifetime game. This is the NFC Championship game against your most hated rival with a chance to go to the Super Bowl at your home stadium. This will never, ever happen again. So I can't wait for this game. And I'll tell you, I think more Rams fans are hanging on to their tickets.
I hope so. The last time the NFC Championship game was all California, it was the Rams and the 49ers, and it was in the 1989-1990 season. These two teams hate each other. It reminds me a little bit like the Dodgers and Giants this past year in that wild card weekend where it felt like it was already the World Series when the two of them played all the way till the end, and then it was a one-game difference between the two. And now LA and San Francisco are getting it in the NFL, and it's going to be rocking there. How early do you have to get there?
I will get there probably 2 hours early.
Okay.
It's, there's, you've got to show your vaccine, all that kind of stuff to get in there. And people are supposed to wear masks. A lot of people don't wear masks, as you see at sporting events. But I'm going to get there early. I want to be part of that environment. I want to be part of that fun. Like I say, it's once in a lifetime. I am a proud member of the Ramily. I know I cover sports for a living. But the reality is, at the very core of me, I am a fan. I am a Dodgers fan, Rams fan, Lakers fan, Trojans fan. I mean, those are my teams. So I ride or die with those teams. So I'm really excited for this one.
Steve Mason from 710 and also from the Culture Pop podcast joining the CJ Silas Show. I always say this. I love when some of the other sports talk show hosts around the country say, oh, I'm not a fan. I don't root for my team. I'm like, dude, you started it as a fan. There's no way you weren't a fan because that's how you got in the business. And I'm not judging your fandom. You can do it however you want. Oh, CJ, you're such a homer. Well, I don't just make my show about the Dodgers and the Lakers and, unfortunately, the Dolphins. But I'm a fan first, and I appreciate that you said that. Let's talk a little bit about that game. I was reading something over the past couple days about a coaching hex between Shanahan and McVay. I guess the 49ers lead the series 7-3 in games that these two guys have coached against each other. Do you know what I'm talking about? Have you heard about the hex?
I do.
What is it?
We have lost 6 in a row to Kyle Shanahan and the San Francisco 49ers. So it is real. They have had our number. The last game we played, we had them on the ropes. We had the lead with 90 seconds left, and they went on that miraculous run to force overtime. So we had them. We had a 17-0 lead. We had the game at the end of regulation, couldn't hang on. This is seventh time is the charm. Seventh time. This is what I've been saying all week. Seventh time is the charm.
Okay.
And I also think it's really hard to beat a team 3 times in a row. 3 times in a season.
Yeah.
These guys know each other really well. They were both part of the Washington football team coaching staff, and they're friends, but they're not friends this Sunday, that's for sure.
Yeah, they probably don't want anyone to remember them for that because that is one of the worst franchises in the history of the world. What about, let's talk about Cooper Kupp. Why does he not get his due? He's a badass.
Yeah, I bring this up all the time. We talk about Cooper Kupp, and he won the Triple Crown, most receiving yards, most receptions, most touchdowns, and yet still, if I ask, for example, John Ireland, who's the best wide receiver in the NFL, he'll say Devontae Adams. And I'm like, what else does Cooper Kupp have to do? Now, the Pro Football Writers of America, I'm not sure if you saw this, named him Offensive Player of the Year today, which is huge, first wide receiver to do it. That means he bested Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers as best offensive player of the year. So he does get respect, but honestly, I don't know why people ignore it. You looked at, that big play that they had. Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp are so tight. They had that big play at the end of the game this past week in Tampa, and Cooper Kupp went deep. You know what they called that? They called that the for the love of the game route. Matthew Stafford afterwards said, it almost never works, but it worked at exactly the right time. Cooper Kupp is just a guy that loves football, built a barn in his backyard, put in a curved treadmill, and really spent the offseason working in almost a scientific way to get it right, and it's definitely paid off.
Not having Andrew Whitworth last week was a big deal for the Rams. Joseph Noteboom filled in for him. Looks like Whitworth might play this weekend. What are you hearing?
I'm hearing Whitworth is questionable and trending towards probable. I'll tell you what, Joe Noteboom did a heck of a job last week because that Rams offensive line did a really good job against a tough Tampa defense. But Whitworth, he's a team leader. I think he's like 39 years old. It's unbelievable that he's able to do what he's able to do, given his age. He's still one of the best left tackles in the game. My sense is Whitworth is going to play, and I think that's a huge boost for the Rams.
I have to tell you, I do have one other quick question, but I'm listening to you, and you're on my show, and I listen to you when I'm in LA, and I kind of feel like I get a little starstruck with you because you're so good at what you do. And John, the two of you together, the chemistry and the enjoyment and the joy that you find with each other, I never found that in my career. And I'm not mad about it, but when I see it with you and John, knowing that, I did updates for you in a mall in the Valley years ago, I just want you to know, it just makes me so happy to hear you and see you doing well. So I wanted to oogle with you before you hung up on me. Okay, good. You didn't.
Oh, that is really, really nice of you. Well, I don't think you should look. 10 years anywhere in radio is a lifetime. So congratulations.
Thank you
on that. It's huge, particularly in a field that is dominated by men. You are a trailblazer. So congratulations. I'm really proud of you.
I remember one time when I was leaving FSR, the F Network, years ago. And you said to me, CJ, I heard that you're kind of difficult to deal with. And it was, 2003 or 4. And I really took that to heart. And I thought, gosh, if Steve's telling me this, this is a guy that's known me pretty much since I was like 25 years old, just trying to get in the business. You're the guy that got me the job covering the O.J. Simpson trial with that newspaper, that circular that you used to send out to radio stations. You are a big part of my career. So when you said that to me, I'll never forget it. It was 2004, 2005. I took that to heart and I thought, you know what? Whatever it is, I got to figure it out. And I don't know if I have, but you've been an important part of my career, and I appreciate you, and I look up to you, which is kind of weird because we've been doing it at the same amount of time. But I just think so highly of you and John, and I wanted to say that for you because my mom is the only listener of my show, so now she got to hear that.
Well, listen, it's great reconnecting, and
yes.
I'll come on anytime.
All right, have a great time this weekend. Go Rams, and keep your fandom as close to your heart as you can.
Yes, go Rams. Whose house? Rams house.
See you, Steve. Thank you.
See ya.
Steve Mason from 710 ESPN. Literally, this guy, I remember when it happened that I was let go, and I can't say anything else because I signed an NDA at that place. And I said, Steve, what do I do? He said, CJ, I heard that you're difficult to deal with. But what it was a woman in a studio made men have to behave themselves. And they didn't want to. They wanted that locker room atmosphere that wasn't allowed if I was there. And when I left, instead of it being, wow, we should fix this environment so that people like CJ don't leave, it was, ooh, yeah, it was hard to have CJ here. And that was 18 years ago. So maybe it wasn't me. But whatever. It's a long time ago, and I've had a really fun, successful time, and I'm so happy to be right here on ESPN 1280. We're going to come back with your Cal Poly, Hancock, and Cuesta Sports Update. I love Steve Mason. He's just talented and funny and warm, and I love that he's still a fan. And if you can't find this show live, if you can't make it to 1280 or 1017 on Wednesday nights at 5, please make an appointment to listen somewhere else. Wherever you find your podcasts, you can also find Steve's podcast, Culture Pop Podcast. It's the CJ Silas Show on ESPN Radio, 1280 AM and FM 101.7, The Ticket.
The CJ Silas Show is back. Make sure your seats are in the upright and locked positions. Carry-on luggage stowed and opinions intact. Here she is, CJ Silas.
Welcome back to the CJ Silas Show. What would a championship weekend be like without head odds maker Rafael Esparza on the CJ Silas Show? It would be awful. That's why he's here. Welcome in, my friend.
How's it going? Happy conference championship weekend.
I know, it's kind of exciting. Let's get right to it at mybookie.ag. You can bet on anything, anywhere, anytime. Cincinnati and KC. Bengals are plus the 7. How will that line fluctuate at all between now and Sunday?
I think we'll see dog money come in. That's Cincinnati just because the way they've been playing. We've seen Cincinnati beat Kansas City already in Cincy, so I think people are going to think that's maybe a revenge factor. But this Bengal team's no joke. I think the line's a little bit too high. Would not be shocked if maybe Kansas City sneaks in a backdoor cover. We'll probably be big Chief fans, I would think. I would not see any line movement, but it'll probably stay 7-54 all the way through kickoff.
And what about Rams giving up 3.5 over the 49ers at SoFi?
Well, let's see. San Francisco has been the Rams, rhymes with which, as of late. I mean, they've been dominating the Rams, just getting W's after W's. I like the revenge factor in this. I think the Rams finally get one over in San Fran. The line's 3.5, totals 46. Money's coming in both ways. Last time I checked, about 58% of the tickets were coming in on the Rams. That's usually what happens when you get 3.5 with home field. Will we see more red at SoFi Stadium than we saw last time? I think the Rams will probably stay 3.5 throughout the whole weekend. The total might continue to creep up. Opened up at 45.5. It is 46. Would not be shocked if we see 46.5, 47 by kickoff.
Some of my favorite props that I found at mybookie.ag is the over-under on field goals, 1.5. Is that a bet that only came up because of what happened last weekend in the divisional series?
No, I mean, that's usually a popular one, but I think it's going to be a really popular this weekend just because what we saw last weekend with the kicking game being so important for all the games. I don't think the kicking game is going to be this important. I would not be shocked if we see a lot of points scored in both games, and I think we see touchdowns more than field goals in this game, but it's going to be a very, very popular bet.
Do you ever do weather props?
normally we'll do for the Super Bowl if it's an outside game. Will it rain, wind, stuff like that. Not these games. If this was maybe a Green Bay game, I would have done maybe a temperature gauge on that one, but not these two games right here, especially in the San Fran LA game. Will it be sunny? I mean,
duh. Hello. What about the prop bet? Either team scoring over 40 points in those 4 games. So of the 4 teams, what's the most money on for a team scoring that high?
Oh, it's easy. Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. So we're hoping that they don't score that many points. If they have the most points scored in these last 2 games, we'll probably lose that prop bet. Right now, we probably need Cincinnati and San Fran to score the most points. LA's creeping up with there, but tickets written is all on Kansas City to score the most points.
Defensive or special teams touchdowns. Do you do bets like that?
Yes, we do have that. That's a minus right now, but what's killing us is people loving it because we've seen it all weekend long. Total sacks in the game. Total sacks in the Rams 49ers game is over under 5.5. So we saw a lot of sacks all last weekend. You can bet the 49ers sacks over 2.5, especially in the Rams over 2.5 as well. I think we're going to see a lot of sacks on Sunday. A lot of quarterbacks are going to be on their backs. What's your favorite prop bet that you've seen for this championship weekend? It happened twice last weekend. Will there be a successful 2-point conversion? The no is minus 290. The yes is plus 230. Usually the no is like minus $4, $5, but we've seen it all playoff long that these teams are going for 2-point conversions. The Rams do it a lot. Kansas City does it a lot. That's why the no is such a low number at minus 290. The Olympics are supposed to start next week, believe it or not. The Winter Olympics. Does anybody bet on the Olympics? We will once. Ice hockey gets a lot of love. Women's ice hockey got a lot of love last time. I can't believe I'm going to say this, but probably the second most bet sport in Olympic is curling. And figure skating gets a lot of action as well. But I'm a sucker for watching curling until 1 a.m. if it's on TV. So that's my favorite thing to watch on the Winter Olympics. We're going to give you the week off next week. Hopefully you'll get a little bit of time before the Super Bowl, but then you're going to be back on the air week of Super Bowl. Thanks, Rafael Esparza, head odds maker at mybookie.ag. Double your first deposit up to $1,000. Thanks a lot, buddy. Take it easy. Have a great week. I love when he says that. He always wants me to have a great weekend, even though it's Wednesday. I don't know if anyone else notices. He always does that. Because a guy like him, he doesn't have a day off. He really doesn't have a day off, especially during the NFL postseason. The Cal Poly Sports Update is brought to you by dentist Dr. Daniel Lapidus and Larry Ackerman. It's also a Cuesta and Hancock Sports Update. Cuesta women's basketball lost to number 5 Moore Park. They're playing Ventura tonight. Men's basketball had an overtime win against Moore Park, and they are playing at Ventura tonight as well. Hancock men's basketball beat Santa Barbara in overtime, shooting 52% from the field. They're playing at Ventura. Women's basketball beat Santa Barbara. Then they lost at Ventura. They're now 9-1, 1-1 in the WSC. They're playing at L.A. Pierce tonight. And Cal Poly women's basketball is back after 4 canceled games due to COVID. They're 1-11, 0-3 in the Big West. They're hosting UC San Diego tomorrow. I'm going to turn off my mic now. I want you to make an appointment to listen to the CJ Silas Show. Next week, we're celebrating Jackie Robinson's birthday. We're talking Olympics, and we're going to have a Super Bowl. Peace out, yo.
Thanks for listening to the CJ Silas Show. Find her podcast on the CJSilasShow.com. Follow her on all social media platforms, including her YouTube channel. Make an appointment to listen every Wednesday on ESPN Radio 1280 AM and FM 101.7. CJ out.